Welcome to the basic information Wealthsimple Tax video, where we go through all the basic information that you need to know about the general questions and why they ask them and the importance of it and what it means for your tax return. So here you have your about you information. So let's get started here. It asks for your first name, middle name, last name, social insurance number. If you're a Canadian resident, you'll have the SIN number. If you just came to Canada, you may have a temporary SIN number. You'll still include that as well. Your year of birth date. So you'll put in your year, month, day, the language, English or French, as well as which province or territory did you live on December 31st, 2025. This is very important as they decide what province you'll pay tax on based on what you input here. So if you put Ontario, you lived in Ontario on December 31st, 2025, you'll put Ontario. You're probably thinking, well, what if I just moved to Alberta on December 31st, 2025, so I could pay Alberta tax, which is lower than Ontario tax? Well, you can only do that if you actually move to Alberta. So let's say you were living in Ontario from January to October, and then from October to December 31st, you were in Alberta, then you could. The reason why is that this tax is based off factual information. So they're going to take a look at your driver's license, where your home is, where your family is, where your dependents are. And if that doesn't match up, so let's say you just went to your cottage in Alberta and then you moved back to Ontario the day after January 1st, it's not going to fly. But look, there is a tax opportunity here. For example, Stephen Harper back in 2015, he moved from Ontario to Alberta and he ended up saving $18,000 in tax. Okay, and the reason why was he actually moved himself and his entire family to Alberta in again October. So he was living most of the year in Ontario, then in October moved to Alberta so he could put in Alberta here and then pay less tax. Okay, so we're not going to change that. Is this return for a deceased person? So if you're doing a final tax return for someone, you'll do yes. If not, you'll put in no. Here's my autofill my return. So we're going to talk about this a little bit later once we go in and finish our personal information. One of the things here that you should know is it will ask you for this NETFILE access code. You do not need it to file your tax return. Okay, so you could leave it blank. But if you do want to input it, you would go into your notice of assessment for your previous tax year. So you'll look in at the top right here. You'll find that on your notice of assessment, you'll find this access code and you'll input it. The reason why this is important is that when you file your tax return for 2025 and you call the CRA asking for some questions or some details, they won't be able to authenticate you using the 2025 information without this NETFILE access code. If you input the NETFILE access code, you will be able to get authentication from the 2025 tax return. Okay, so that's the only difference. I leave this blank because I don't bother with looking at the notice of assessment unless I have to. But if I don't, then I'll just leave it blank because you don't need it to file the tax return. Here you have your mailing address, your unit, street number, street name, city, province, and your postal code. Okay, the postal code here is incorrect. Your phone number here is also incorrect, but you need these to be filled out for you to be able to file your tax return. So anything with a star is necessary. If it's red, you will not be able to file your tax return. Since this is only an example one, I'm not going to correct these mistakes. Okay, I'm not even going to input this phone number because all I want to do is show you what is important and why it's important. Okay, I'm not filing my tax return right now. So you have your phone number. Do you have a non-Canadian mailing address? So you'll most likely say no. About your residency, so most of you, 99% of you, will say yes, you're a Canadian resident for 2025. There may be some of you that this might be a question mark for. If you do, just look at the residency ties and the determination of residency here on the CRA's website. If this is a video that you would like me to do more about Canadian residency, put a comment in the video so I know, and I will do that. I will do that, and I'll go through the residency rules for you. About your province or territory. So again, this is going back to that question, where should we pay? Which province are we paying tax to? Are we paying it in Ontario where the taxes are high, or in Alberta where the taxes are low? They're not low, but they're lower. So In which province did you live in? Ontario. Is this the province that you did your residency change in 2025? If it did, let's say you moved, you would put October. Is your home address the same as your mailing one? Yes. In which province do you currently live? You'll put Ontario as well. Now, one of the things you do need to note here is if it's not starred, you don't really need to answer it, okay? If you're looking at this as simply a time thing and you want to save time when you're filing your tax return, you don't need to. Anything with a star is necessary. Anything without it, you can just skip. You and your family now. Marital status on December 31st. So what were you on the last day? Were you single, married, separated, widowed, living common law, etc.? So here for these purposes, we're just going to say single. Did your marital status change in 2025? You also have to let them know. So if you went from married to separated, you would say yes. If you went from single to living common law, you would say yes. But in this case, we'll say no. Dependents, if you have any children or anyone that depends on you, a very, let's say, senior, you'll put yes or no here as well. So other stuff we have to ask. So you can see there's a lot of questions here. So are you filing an income tax return for the first time? Simple, yes or no. Are you a Canadian citizen? Okay, so this is something that you'll need to input. As a Canadian citizen, do you authorize? So you'll say, yes, I'm a Canadian citizen, or no, I'm a Canadian citizen. And then they'll ask you, do you authorize the Canada Revenue Agency to give your name, address, birthday to update the register of future electors? You'll say no, because why would you want to do that? Are you a person registered under the Indian Act? Are you a person of Indigenous descent? If you are, and you'll just write yes, and you'll get some favorable tax benefits there. Property and things you may have invested in. So did you own or hold specified foreign property where the total amount of all property at any time in the year was more than $100,000 in 2025? This is that T1135. I did a video about it, so click that video if you want to learn more about the T1135. So if you own anything over $100,000, that's foreign property that is not for personal use property, you'll say yes. Did you dispose of your principal residence? So did you sell your principal residence? Did you sell the home that you lived in to live in another home? You'll say yes if you did, or no if you did not. Did you flip a property? So there's now some property flipping information where if you flip properties within the year, you have to say yes and you'll get unfavorably taxed. Did you open your first home home savings account in 2025? Okay, so again, yes or no about that. Your first home savings account, again, very good benefit for when you're purchasing your first home. If you're planning on purchasing one in the near future, that's something that you would open. Again, there's a video about that as well on my channel. We have to ask because it affects some calculations. So you'll write no here. We have to ask because it affects them. Were you confined to a prison for a period of 90 days or more? This is important for if you are married and there's some things between the spouses that they can claim if you were in jail. So you'll say no, most likely. Now they ask you if you have any sort of organ and tissue donor registry. Okay, so if you do want to donate, you can say yes, but for the most part, I don't know, depending on you, you might say yes or no. We'll just leave it at no for now. Okay, will you apply for the Ontario Trillium benefit? So again, the Ontario Trillium benefit, if you don't know what that is, it's essentially some benefit for your energy and property tax credits, so something that you can get back. The thing is, this is only really for lower income families to middle class families. It's income tested. If you make over like $70,000 as a single person, you won't get this benefit. But again, you'll have to take a look in to see what the income threshold is exactly for this energy. I just know it is income tested, and for the most part, it is really for lower income families. So depending on what your income is, you'll have to double check if you can apply for it. But I would assume that it'll be no. However, if you want me to do a video on the Ontario Trillium benefit, drop a comment and we can go through this in depth, okay? But for the most part, this is something to help really low income earners. It starts at $29,000 where they start depleting how much you can get. So it's income tested. And yeah, now it asks you finally here, your CRA My Account online mail. Do you want me to sign up for an online mail to get your notice of assessment? You can do no, I'm already signed up. Yes, sign me up. You can just say no, not yet. And then now we can go back here to the auto file. So when you get to this page, this is when you're actually doing your tax return. So here you can go in and put your T4, your slip, and you can file it. But if you don't want to manually do that, you would go back up here to your auto file, import auto file my return. And this is essentially, the function of this is grabbing all your information from the CRA's website in their database. So they have a database of your information that they collect from your employer, your banks, your essentially anyone that, you know, is required to send them information on your behalf. So your employer needs to send them your T4. Your investments that you're making, so if you're with Scotiabank, RBC, they have to send the CRA your T5, T3 slips as well, and they receive that, as well as your T5008. So why would you go through manually inputting this information when you can just go through and import from here? So how you do that, you go on import forms, you agree, authorize my CRA account. Now all you have to do here is you have to log in to your CRA account. So you'll either have your sign-in partner or your CRA user and ID. But you must already have an account here, okay? And provincial partners cannot use this service. So very important that you either have a sign-in partner or the CRA user ID and password. But you must have an account. You can't just create an account now and do the authorization. So you must have an account. Once you sign in, it'll ask you, do you want to transfer? You just say yes. And then it'll take some time. Since I did not, I just clicked, I exited out. It said data retrieval failed. Okay. Very good system here. All right. Very good system in place for you to go through. Now, if you are using Wealthsimple Tax, which I do suggest, you can see here how user-friendly it is. Very simple so far, nothing too complex. There are some questions that you need to know about the tax and why they ask you, but overall, not a difficult, it's not hard to look at. If you are planning on using Wealthsimple Tax, click the link in the description. If you fund your account by only $100, they'll give you $25. That's a 25% return. Okay, so that's very good on them. And I think when you're filing your tax return, you might as well receive something out of it too. You get $25. You don't even have to pay because it's free. So Wealthsimple Tax is on a donation basis. So you can donate $0, which means it's free. Now, if you go down to the T4 here or your managed tax forms, in the next video I'm going to talk about all the forms and what it may mean for you and how to pretty much navigate through that, depending on if you're just a regular employee, a business owner, if you have RSP donations, etc. Okay, so make sure to subscribe to this channel. If this video helped, you'll continue to get more Canadian tax guidance videos that'll help you navigate the tax season. Remember, this is general information, not personalized tax advice.